Hey guys, welcome back to the Notorious Autosports YouTube channel. I know it's been quite a while now. I'm not sure if I've done a video since Texas actually. It's been a long time. Today I am back in the garage on the Daily Driver, and what I want to go over today, actually, this is a video by request, but how to get your car ready for spring, or if you're taking it out of storage, how to get it prepped and ready for spring and summer. This is going to vary from model to model. This is going to be kind of an overview, and again, you're going to have some variances if you're switching from winter to spring or summer, or taking your car out of storage completely. But I'm going to try and go over some different things that would correspond with either and or, and just give you guys some general information. If you guys are wanting to put your own summer tires on and you're tired of paying somebody to do that, if you have some basic tools, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you don't, I'm going to show you what tools you need to do those simple, straightforward tasks with some confidence to know that you're not going to have problems going down the road, and you can save yourself a buck and also start to build that skill. If you were wanting to start to tinker on your car, you've got some projects in mind and you want to start doing that yourself, well, a great way to start is doing those simple things. Get your car prepped, do your tires. I'll show you how to service some brakes, check your fluids, just some simple, straightforward basics, and then grow your skills from there. So I'm going to get stuck into this. First thing I would recommend, make sure you have some jack stands. You're going to jack up your car, and I always recommend to use jack stands. Unfortunately, a friend of mine a number of years back now actually lost his dad in the garage to a vehicle coming off of a jack and crushing him. So I can't recommend it enough. Go out, get yourself some jack stands. They're not expensive. If you're going to be wanting to do this more and more, you're definitely going to want to have those basic tools. Alright, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I'll get you in for a look there. Normally you just start jacking up your car, but when your car is low and you can't get the floor jack underneath the front, they actually made these wooden ramps, two pieces of board, and you got a chamfered edge or a wedge on the end that helps you drive up onto them. Then I can get it up a little bit taller and get it so I can get this floor jack underneath the front end. And we are going to then jack up the car and get these stands underneath, just basically in from where they are positioned there. And the rocker panels on the BMWs, there is actually a block, which is a jacking point, or if you're jacking the car up from the front, then it's perfect to actually put the jack stands on. Most cars, you're gonna see a pinch weld there. That's where you're gonna lift the car off of, or a front subframe. I'll show you once I get the car up the spot where I'm actually able to lift the car off of in the center, and I'll also show you those blocks before I put the jack stands under there to let you know that's basically where your average car, where the pinch weld's going to be, that's where you're going to want to lift the car off of with the floor jack. There are lower profile jacks which may actually reduce the need for those blocks, but I have this heavy duty 3-ton from Princess Auto. Going to be very similar to your ones from Harbor Freight, or your Torin big red jacks. Works really well. It's like $100 7-8 years ago, and I haven't had a problem with it, so it's well worth it. Nowadays there are ones from Costco, things like that, that you can get for a couple $100 or less, and they're a little more low profile, lighter weight, aluminum. Here's where I'm going to get that jack stand set up. Take you around to the other side and show you in a minute. Alright, on the driver's side, I will take you under here. We'll get a look at where that jack stand is being positioned. And see that block right there? That is where you would normally lift the car up off of. For now, we're going to use that as a jack stand point. It's good and secure. And here's a better look at those ramps I was mentioning earlier for lifting up the lowered cars. Definitely beneficial. And I don't know what I'd do without it because I don't have anything that's normal ride height. Alright, got you guys in a little closer here. First major step, getting your summer tires put on. I'm going to use my Milwaukee M18 Impact. If you don't have power tools, not a problem. You can do it with a breaker bar or a big ratchet. All I would recommend is either having somebody sit in the car and press on the brake to try and break those bolts or wheel nuts free, depending on your model. Or before you lift the car up, you can just go around the car and crack them free. It's not going to make a difference, even if you got to move the car a foot or so forward or back in the garage, your final positioning. But it's easiest if you get it in the final position before you lift it up, crack them free, get it up on the stands, because once you get it up, you try and spin that, try and break that wheel nut loose. It's not going to happen. Another thing I always recommend, I still do it all the time. After I get the car on the jack stands, lower the jack down. Well, I usually relieve just a bit of pressure off the jack, grab hold of the car, give it a little wiggle, because you don't want that thing coming down on you. So it's better to happen when the jack is still under the car if it's going to go anywhere. I've never had a problem with it, but it's one of those kind of OCD peace of mind things. So we're going to go get this wheel removed. And then we will get into some chat on brake servicing. Oh, we're a little stuck. Another thing I recommend, if you do have a wheel that's a little tight, put a wheel bolt in there a little bit. Give it a couple turns, because then when you get that wheel loose, it's not going to come flying off. Also, I don't normally like hitting the tire with my hand like that. It sends a lot of shock up through your arm. You're going to feel it, especially if you're doing it every day. So I recommend kind of crawling down on the ground, kicking that tire from behind. There we are, nice and free. And this is more of a common thing up in Canada because we get rust and grime, and all it is just a little bit of gunk on the center hub here, which will clean up before we put the summer wheels on. I always recommend too, and it's one of my OCD things again, but I see it all the time when people are doing videos on brakes or wheel servicing or anything like that. This surface here needs to always be nice and clean. Your wheel needs to make a proper contact with that. If not, you can risk having wheels come loose. Same thing with behind the rotor. People are doing brakes all the time, and I see that hub just rusty, scuzzy. Clean it up. Take the 2 minutes that it takes, put a little bit of anti-seize on there, put that rotor on, then it's not going to get stuck the next time. You're not going to have more rust building up there. And also, you're not going to risk having something moving with a little bit of compression because that rust isn't solid. So you can have wheel bolts back off, wheel nuts back off, and a wheel come off. So make sure this is all nice and clean. Same with the back side of the rim. I usually spray a little bit of penetrant on there. Worth HHS 2000 is what I'm going to use today. You can also use a little bit of anti-seize around here. And I don't typically have a problem with it myself, but depending on the vehicle, how clean the wheels are, if you get some older rims, they have a little more corrosion. It's not a bad idea after getting your wheels installed to drive a couple 100 kilometers and retorque them. A great thing for peace of mind, especially as a beginner. If you aren't well experienced doing wheels, just so you know that you're not going to have an issue a week later, drive it down the road, drive it to town and back, retorque those wheels, and then you know that everything's good there. So if you're working on concrete, not a bad idea to get yourself a foam pad. Saves your knees, especially cold concrete. It's never fun. I got myself a cheap brush here, Princess Auto. They come in a 3-pack. You get this one, a brass one, a nylon one. If you got a little bit of sandpaper or something like that, just clean this up. Get rid of any of the buildup there. Sandpaper actually works really well because you can manipulate it a bit more. And just make sure that you're not going to have anything that's going to stick how that wheel was when it came off. So that's all cleaned up. Next, we're going to check into brakes. All right. On brakes. If you've got your wheel off, and this is great for a car that's either been sitting or a car that's been driven through the winter, now's the perfect time to take a look at them, see what kind of condition they're in, and if they are in good condition, take them apart and service them, meaning cleaning and lubricating where those pads sit and also those pins that the calipers are sliding back and forth on. Typically, I'll get you guys in here. Right now, there's tons and tons of material on there. You can see the backing here. That's typically about 5 millimeters thick. Once the brake pad starts to get about the thickness of that backing, then that's a good time to start paying attention to potentially needing brakes in the near future. There are these brake thickness gauges here that are great. If you're not 100% sure visually what is a minimum, I'm sure you could find something like this on Amazon. This is from way back in my Ford days. But yeah, you just kind of fit this in here, match it up with your thickness there, which, well, these are looking pretty good. We are going to be up around 10 millimeters. So there's lots and lots of material there. So I'm going to take these apart, clean, lubricate, make sure everything's moving nice and free for the next 6 to 8 months of summer driving. So for the brake servicing, it's pretty basic hand tools. You can get elaborate, but you don't need anything crazy. To any of you guys and girls that are wanting to try and get into hobbyist wrenching on your vehicle, I recommend go out and get yourself a large basic tool set. Harbor Freight, Canadian Tire, Lowe's. There's lots out there. Princess Auto, Canadian Tire. Like, there's so much variety these days. We are so lucky. I have a lot of Snap-on tools. No, you do not need Snap-on tools to start out to do this. I was doing it every day, working in multiple different dealerships. And after a while, there are certain tools that you upgrade. There are other ones that I still have my basic Mastercraft Maximum set from 18 years ago from Canadian Tire. A lot of those sockets I have never, well, most of those sockets I've never even replaced. There's been a handful of them that are broken from everyday use. So if you're doing this at home, go out, get yourself some Craftsman, some Maximum, some Husky, something like that. Get yourself a large kit that's got 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2-inch sockets, shallow and deep, metric and imperial, some ratchets, a good set of wrenches from any of those brands. Again, make sure you get yourself something around like the 8mm to 19mm. Sometimes you need a little bit larger depending on what you're working on. And then again, get something that's got 5/16 to 3/4, and that'll do the majority. Get yourself some channel locks, pliers, a decent set of screwdrivers. Again, I have Snap-on, but you don't need that. You can get something that has a metal cap on the end, something that you can hit with a hammer a little bit. It's a lot nicer, a little more durable. Here, example, Snap-on ratchet. It's my favorite one, but this is from Canadian Tire. And this is, I believe, made by Gear Wrench now. It is their Maximum Series Mastercraft, but it looks as close as can be to an actual Gear Wrench one. And the tooth engagement, I wish they had that good of a ratchet from basic toolkits when I started 20 years ago. So this is the type of stuff that's all you really, really need. But once you do it for a while, sometimes you upgrade. So we're going to get these brakes apart. First thing is I am going to loosen off this retaining clip, which the anti-rattle shim is going to come apart as well, apparently. And then we have, on this style of brakes, there are 2 pins here on the caliper. They both have dust boots on the back of them, just to keep the dirt and grime out. They are going to be a 7mm on this. A lot of your import vehicles, Japanese as well, they're going to be like that. And it's super, super common. Actually, a ton of domestics have it too. So we're going to loosen off both those pins, pull them out. The purpose of doing this brake service is if these pins get tight over time, because they have grease on them, and that grease can dissipate after that caliper moves back and forth a lot, then this caliper is not going to move back and forth freely. Again, we're going to take these brake pads out. Where they sit in the saddles there, you're going to have a little bit of grease in there. Not too much, because you don't want to actually accumulate dirt. But if these brake pads aren't able to move back and forth, these brakes stick in a spot. They can ride on these rotors, prematurely wear the pads out, or if they're stuck too far out and you're squeezing that caliper and it's not actually pressing these pads on the rotor, you're going to get rust buildup. That's going to turn into pulsations. You're not going to have very effective braking. So to do this once or twice a year, I actually recommend to do it when you put your winter tires on, and then again when you put your summer tires on, or all seasons if you will. It takes a little bit of time, but not much. It's very simple, straightforward. There's nothing too complicated about it. And then you're going to ensure that your brakes are going to wear evenly and last as long as possible. You saw how much brake pad was on there. Those are 10mm. I believe they started at 12. And these brakes have been on here 3.5 years now. Again, car is manual, so downshifting, you're not using as much brakes, but just goes to show that some regular maintenance makes things last a lot longer. Alright, so we're going to get this caliper off the rest of the way. This is also a great time while you're going through and doing this. Go through, before you pull the wheels, give them a little wiggle back and forth, side to side, top and bottom, and you can get a good idea of if the front suspension and steering is tight, or if you got some components that are worn that require attention. I am going to be doing some front end work on this. Not that I necessarily have anything that's got play per se, but these bushings have 280,000 kilometers on them. They're all original, all the ball joints. Just going to go through, refresh it, and for peace of mind. There's one of those caliper pins. That's nice and clean. It still had some grease left on it, so that keeps it from rusting up. Hard to see, but you'll start to get a little bit there, so I'm going to clean that with the wire brush, but that's the exposed portion that's not in the rubber boot here, and that will start to get rust, and then starts to stick, and then things aren't moving. Get this one out. You can still see it's got some grease and lubricant on it, and all I use is synthetic brake lubricant. Don't use something that's petroleum based. It will swell up the boots in here a lot of the time, and then that can actually keep things from wanting to move as freely. When you're trying to get the caliper off, you can put a screwdriver in between the opening here or in here, probably between the pad and the rotor, and it's just going to push that piston back a little bit, just to allow you to get the caliper off a little easier. So in here is where we want to clean. Not too bad. I painted these ones a number of years ago, so they don't get a lot of buildup in there, but I'm going to go through and use some brake clean, and I have this nylon brush, and just clean that out, and then I'm going to apply a little bit of this synthetic grease again into here, all these contact points, basically anywhere the pad is touching. So we've got here, here, and back here. And I'm going to clean these up a little bit with a file as well, just to get any little bit of surface rust off of them. Again, nothing over the top on these, and they were moving freely as you saw. We got no resistance in there, but to ensure that maintains its ease there, we're going to put a little bit of grease, clean that up, and I also like to take a bit of sandpaper around the edge of the pad and just get rid of any lip that's on there, because that can actually cause brake squealing. Also, usually take a bit of sandpaper. If you place some 60 grit or 80 grit down on a flat surface, take that pad and just scuff it along there. Just gets that glazing off of there. Some pads are worse than others depending on the compound. These ones are actually really good. for lack of noise, but I'll still go ahead and do that. I also like to put just a little bit here on the outside of the brake pad. A lot of times that can kind of knock down just a little bit of noise, which is caused by vibration. A lot of brake squeal. That's realistically what it is at the end of the day, is vibration. You get dust trapped in there, and then that pad is trying to press down. You got that dust in between, and that pad is moving back and forth. That's actually squealing. Forgot a spot here. There we are. So we're going to clean up these pins a little bit. Just on that little inside spot that I had shown you guys there. Even easier, found a wire brush for the drill. Makes it a lot quicker. It's not digging in and creating a bunch of scratches that are gonna start rust. Typically I would use a bench grinder with a wire wheel on it. I don't have mine set up here, so this is a simple solution. Makes easy work, all nice and clean. We're gonna put some grease on these and then spread it around, and then back in we go. You don't need a ton, you just want a thin layer, be able to spread it around and keep those things from getting tight in there. And if you stay on top of this every 6 to 8 months, less chance of something actually happening, so even easier. Go back in, tighten these up. This is something that you want tight, but you don't need to hang off this. These things don't back off unless you don't have them tight at all. It's not like every time you go around a left-hand turn that you're going to have a problem with these loosening off. So just snug, and I'll usually go do the other one, and then I will double check that top one again. It's just part of my standard practice. And then we'll put that anti-rattle clip on the outside, apply a little lubricant to that hub, and then we'll be good to go putting on the summer wheel. Don't forget your dust caps. Alright, so we got our summer wheel here. I actually took the time yesterday to do a little bit of paint touch-ups on them. They had a little bit of curb rash from previous owners over the years. I stripped them all down with a degreaser and then used a clean slate wash from Chemical Guys, and then used some isopurple prep, and then actually used some Avalon King ceramic coating on these to try and just reduce the amount of dirt buildup, brake dust. I did the faces, did all inside the barrels as well. Just keep them looking better longer, and should reduce the amount of cleaning required. So this is a little different than a lot of your vehicles because, as you've seen, we got wheel bolts. So what I like to do, get it on the hub, then get one wheel bolt and get it in there started. You can also get a stud or a long bolt without a head that'll go through. You can thread it in, put the wheel on, put a couple of your wheel bolts in, unthread that, and then start some of your other wheel bolts. So we're gonna get all these wheel bolts on and then tighten them up with the impact. And there are so many people that I see tightening wheels with the impact, and they just go hog wild and just rattle them on. There's no need for that. most likely you are over tightening them before you even get to your torque wrench. And yes, I use a torque wrench all the time when it comes to wheels. So I like to go in a star pattern here, just bring them up tight. And then once we get them down, we'll go through that star pattern, crisscross with the torque wrench. All those places I mentioned earlier, all those stores for getting your tools, you can get very reasonably priced torque wrenches these days. Amazon as well, and it's not hard to actually find a deal on one. Harbor Freight's got the digital ones all the time going on sale, and I believe they may be Icon, but I could be wrong. Not as familiar with their inventory, but Princess Auto, our Canadian Harbor Freight, has torque wrenches for like $40 or $50. Don't drop it. It may not be the most accurate torque wrench out there, but if you're just using it for your wheels twice a year, it's going to get you pretty darn close. A heck of a lot closer than just using a bar or a four-way or a tire iron, which again, you can use to crack all these wheels and tighten them back up. But I always recommend using a torque wrench just to double check that they are actually tight. Before I get this thing dropped down, I'm actually going to go through and do some stuff off camera. I've got some maintenance that I'm going to do on the car. I've got some ball joints and control arms, as I previously mentioned, that I'm going to refresh and go through and do all that. I won't show you guys how to do that, as it is a little off topic for getting the car ready for spring, but I'm going to go through and do that, and then I'll catch up with you guys in a bit with some more tips. It's later, way later. I decided to endeavor in doing lower control arm bushing, a lower control arm that had a ball joint, and then a ball joint as well. Front end multi-length suspension here. That took way longer than intended. The bushing, was fused into the arm and didn't want to come out, which is not usually a problem, but older car. I have sufficient tools to normally obliterate something like that out of the arm, and even my big snap-on air hammer really took about 15 minutes to get it out. So that was a chore and a half, but we got this side back together, wheels back on, and now we are going to torque this wheel. So I don't know, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but there is these graduated marks along here. This one, you slide that collar up and rotate it around. There's numbers all the way around here, so we're going to want to bring the 0 all the way up to the 100, and that indicates 100 foot-pounds. So there's 90, and then rotating back up to 100. Your wheel torque's going to vary from car to car. Check your specs. You can look up online. You can usually find them there. Not too hard to find. And then, as I had mentioned earlier, go in the star pattern. This is actually a set of new wheel bolts, so they have a little bit of noise going as they're seating. Well, that first one did. And so we go in our star pattern. I typically like to do that twice. And then, as we had talked about earlier, you can go and drive your car for a day and then come back and retorque. I might actually do that with the front here, especially since it's a new set of wheel bolts. Just make sure everything's happy there. But that covers the seasonal tire change and brake service portion. I will get back at you guys with some more tips probably tomorrow. All right, fresh new day. It's actually a couple days after when we were working away on the brake service there. The following evening, I went and did all the ball joints and control arm bushings on the right-hand side. That was a bit of an endeavor, but successful nonetheless. Now I want to get back to some of the maintenance items. I got a bit of a list of things that I want to go over with you guys just to follow up with. So we left off with tire installation. You're going to want to also check your tire pressures, whether you're bringing your car to storage or installing the winter tires. Tire pressures can go down over time just from temperature fluctuation, and typically what you're going to do is find them just in the B pillar inside the door jamb. Some other European cars, if you look in the fuel door, they will also have tire pressures in there for you. Example for one of those would be Mercedes, and they actually have one in the door jamb and in the fuel door. The door jamb one is actually a government installed decal, which you'll see in a lot of newer vehicles. It can vary from the manufacturer decal, which is in the fuel door on those, so you're always going to want to go by the fuel door in that particular instance. Another thing in relation to tires will be wheel alignments, and I know some people are going to think it's too frequent, but honestly, spring and fall, do a wheel alignment. Tires are not cheap. Prices keep going up. I know certain manufacturers had 10-15% increase last year, and anywhere from 5 to 10% increase again this year. Tires are expensive. A wheel alignment is anywhere from $100 to $200 on average, and that is a far cry from your $1,500, $2,000 in tires. All depends what you're driving. You're going to have variances in tire costs there, but for example, low profile, Nittos, staggered, not cheap. So do yourself a favor. Roads are rough. Alignments can get knocked out. Do an alignment spring and fall. Under the hood is where we're going to go next here. And my apologies. It has not been washed or cleaned under here. It's going to be filthy, I'm sure. So we're going to want to go over fluids. Whether, again, you're taking your car out of storage or you're doing your spring prep. Top off that washer fluid. I do not recommend using Rain-X. That is up to you, but on a lot of newer vehicles with a washer fluid level sensor, Rain-X has silicones in it. Throws that sensor off because it's actually reading a resistance inside that fluid reservoir. Throws that resistance off, turns on your low washer fluid light even though the bottle is topped off. If you want to have something that has that rain repellent effect on the windshield, do yourself a favor, get ceramic coating. You could even use the Rain-X windshield application. There's nano coatings, all kinds of options these days. So put that on the glass, and that is going to do a lot better than having a problem inside your washer fluid reservoir and seeing a really annoying light come on when you've got that filled up. Next, we've got coolant. Beside that, good idea to just top that off. Check it. It's half water. Water can evaporate. As that gets heated and cooled, that reservoir can get a little low. So just top that off. This one does not have an oil dipstick, but if you do, check your oil level. Or good time to do a service as well. If you're coming close, just get it done. Spring, fresh start, get it out of the way. Power steering fluid. This one does have power steering fluid. I know a lot of your guys' newer cars does not have that, so you may not actually need to check that, but just go over everything under the hood. Do a check over, a top up. You know exactly what you're dealing with while you're starting your season out, and then you don't have to worry about silly things like that. Again, wiper blades. If they're a year old, change them. A lot of the times, 6 months is all you get. Let me actually show you guys how to change wiper blades. Grab yourself a rag. It's always kind of helpful. On this one, there we are. They actually pivot up because they will hit the glass if you do not. This has a little plastic cover on it. This one is missing, so this is going to be our example. Flip that wiper up. This comes off real nice and easy. This is going to vary model to model. When you take that off, actually, I would recommend, it's easier with two hands. So have this rag handy. Take this wiper blade off. So many people just leave that arm up, sitting there while they go walk and grab that other blade. Put a rag, put it down. I don't know how many times I've seen people who are well experienced pull a wiper blade off, that arm smashes down, cracks the windshield. take the 2 seconds, grab a rag, and put it there so you don't scratch the glass. If you don't have a rag, at least gently put that wiper arm down. So, fresh wipers, fresh start, always nice. Don't break your windshield. After that, these ones just slide back down. It's nice and easy. They've made it great for maintenance that way. Batteries. Charge your batteries if your car's been sitting. Just top that off. Even if it starts, it's not a bad idea to top it off. If you are able to store your car in an area that has hydro or power, plug a trickle charger and maintain that battery. It's going to last way longer for you. You're going to spend less money. Smarter, not harder. Let's do these simple tests. So on this one, got our boost point here. If your car has been in storage and you are not able to plug a charger in, if you can remove the battery, great. If you don't have the tools, well, you're going to have to leave that battery in if you don't have a friend that can pull it out. What you're going to want to do is you got your boost points. You're going to want to bring a charger. Well, can't have a charger. Bring another car. You got your positive here, your negative here. Again, that's going to vary from model to model, brand to brand, but a lot of cars now have boost points underneath the hood for ease of access. Hook that positive cable up always first, and then hook that negative cable up afterwards, and do it to the dead battery last, because then you will not have sparks flying. Never a good thing. Oh, one more thing on the tire pressures I forgot. Do yourself a favor, go get a decent tire pressure gauge. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but just go out and get something that's half decent so that you can at least maintain your tire pressures yourself. If you're going to the fuel station and using that, they are, I've had them out, honestly, 20 pounds. So do not rely on that. Go get yourself a tire gauge. You can get them for like 10 or 15 bucks. Amazon, hardware store, anything like that. Check your AC in the spring. That's a good time so that you know if it's going to work or not, so that you don't have to worry about trying to panic, get into that workshop in, well, summertime when things start to heat up, and have that backlog of everybody else that wants to get their AC checked. So when you're bringing it out, just turn it on, make sure it's nice and cold. If it's not, set up an appointment, get that taken care of ahead of time. Oil change, be a good thing if your car is stored. Most models these years, it's once a year you're doing an oil change. Older stuff, maybe a little more frequently depending on the oil you're using, but bringing your car out, again, that fresh start mentality. Do an oil change, get it sorted. Even if you are coming up close on your spring driver, do that oil change, get it done. That's about all I can go over with you guys as far as under the hood. What else do we have in here? All right. Not totally related to the mechanical side, but you get your car all together, tidied up, tires on. Now's a good time to clean the outside, get all that road grime off, go in the wheel wells, spray them out, get all that sand that's built up over the winter if you're in a northern climate like myself. Spray under the car, get all that residue off. And then it's great having your car look awesome outside, but you're on the inside and you want it to feel just as good. So take the time, take an afternoon on a weekend and go through the whole interior. Get rid of any of those salt stains on the carpet, wipe everything down, clean it up. I've actually got some new products, and no, this was not sponsored at all, but I've got some new stuff that I'm going to try this year, and that is Gyeon cleaning products. We got some leather cleaner here for the seats, and then I've got leather nano coating, which I'm curious to try. I'm actually going to use this on my shoes too, because I'm a little bit picky that way and I want to try it out and see what it's going to do on white shoes. Got this fabric coat which will work on Alcantara and suedes from what I've seen. Also fabric seats and maybe carpet areas if you got some light carpet areas, like colored carpet areas that have high traffic, then that's going to keep that a little cleaner longer. And then I've got this tire coating, which There's some other manufacturers that make similar things, and as opposed to a tire shine, it's a tire coating that's supposed to last 3+ months, or depending how many washes you do, you can do like 10+ washes and it doesn't come off. So I'm curious on something like that. I'll let you guys know that, and I may actually do a video in the future of interior cleaning, just a little bit of an overview again, for some of you who might be a little newer to the automotive enthusiast community. We'll just give you some help with that, show you what to look for, what to do, and you don't have to go ahead and get these Gyeon products, but they do have a really good reputation. There are some other manufacturers, Adams, Chemical Guys, CarPro. A lot of those are available online. I did purchase these all off of Carzilla.ca, and the prices were very good. Service was good. Shipping was quick. Free shipping if you actually purchase over a certain dollar amount. So I can't say enough good things about that. Gyeon, if you want to sponsor me in the future, I'll be happy to try out some more products. Let me know. But for now, I'm going to get this thing rolled outside. I might actually do a little bit of an interior clean this afternoon, and it's actually my birthday, so I'm actually going to go and see what I can do for some birthday adventures as well. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you stuck around to the end of the video, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this. To anybody who is new, get into this. It is fun. You will enjoy yourself. It gives you something new and challenging to do, and it's always fun to save some money as well. So win-win all around. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I will link down below some basic tool kits to get you started, some tire changing tools, and just some basic stuff to get you started into the DIY. Thanks again for watching. I will see you guys next time. Wheels back off. Forgot my spray. Don't need a ton. Just enough around the hub to keep that from building rust again and sticking that wheel back on.